Logan watched the mischievous smile forming on Nina's face. She was definitely up to something crazy, and he had no idea why he wanted to play along regardless. "So, you'll do anything I say, right?" "Anything?" she asked again. Logan nodded in agreement, his eyes studying her every reaction closely. Nina thought of a wild idea. This was her chance. She was going to be selfish and get some of that affection from him, meant for his kids, for herself. She would manifest her own dreams. "Actually, sir, I'm very happy that you confided in me for help. You won't regret it. And I have a brilliant idea," she said, laughing mischievously. "Tell me about it," Logan urged, genuinely interested. "Well, the thing is, your children seem to be scared of you, which is very understandable because, honestly, you do seem beastly, but that's beside the point. The point is, in this case, you need to appeal to them, and you can do that by showing them that you can be loving, kind, and sweet. Now, since they're a little skeptical about you and they're still little kids, you can't just walk up to them and start telling them that you love them. The best way is to show that you care about someone else. For example, someone they're close to like me," Nina explained proudly, pointing at herself. Logan narrowed his eyes, staring at her skeptically. This crazy girl. He could read right through her. She was so innocent and had no idea that reading people's entire persona was something he had mastered over the years. "So, what is that supposed to mean?" he asked, pretending not to understand. "It means you have to treat me nicely and sweetly, do things for me while they watch. Once they see someone they trust being close to you, their trust in that person will transfer to you," she explained further. "I see. So, Ms. Opal, what are you suggesting?" Logan asked, rubbing his chin as he stared at Nina with great interest. He honestly loved whatever mischief she was up to. "Sir, we can start immediately just so you see how effective this will be. Leave everything to me, okay? Just play along. We're having a picnic outside later this evening. You can join us," Nina suggested. The mansion was grand, and its exterior looked like a resort, with so much nature and greenery. It was beautiful. Nina had planned an outdoor picnic with the children that evening. Helen had prepared a picnic basket filled with everyone's favorite snacks. They sat around and played casually for a while. Nina delayed serving the snacks because she truly believed Logan would join them, but after some time passed and he didn't show up, she sadly gave up hope. Still, they had fun. Nina didn't see Logan for the rest of the day. He stayed in his office and even had dinner there. She was just getting ready for bed when she heard a knock on her door, and Logan walked in. Nina was surprised to see him. "Is there anything I can help you with, sir?" she asked. Logan stared at her for a moment. He had expected her to come and ask why he hadn't joined them, but she didn't. It bothered him so much that he had to come explain himself. He waited for Nina to ask first, but she acted completely unaware. "I did go," he said. Nina looked at him, confused. "I went to join you and the kids for the picnic, but I couldn't go through with it once I saw you all," he explained, looking serious. Yet Nina could see the sorrow he tried to hide. She had been very disappointed when Logan didn't come, and it made her rethink her silly, delusional plan. But now, she wondered if she had been too quick to judge. "What do you mean, sir?" she asked curiously. "I went to the gardens. I saw you all playing happily. But Hazel saw me as I was walking toward you, and her bright smile dropped," he said, his face still firm, but his voice low. I could see the fear on her face. "My own children are scared of me, and I only have myself to blame for that." Nina felt so sorry for him, but especially for the children. They had everything, yet they lacked the most important thing children deserve: parental love. She wanted to ask him why he was so distant from his own kids, why they were a priority in terms of time and attention. She had so many questions. What kind of father was he? But she thought it wasn't her place. Not yet. Not when they barely knew each other. Still, if she could help him get close to the kids, maybe they would change their attitude toward him. "Do you still want to get close to them?" she asked. "Of course I do. But they're scared of me." "How is that going to work?" "It's like my presence kills their joy," he sighed. "Do I have to walk around the house with a wide smile every day just so they ease up to me?" Nina chuckled slightly after hearing this. "Sir, they're kids. Kids can love anyone and anything. They can even befriend wild beasts. You don't need to change your entire personality. You just need to be someone they depend on. Everyone else can be scared of you, but your children should cling to you. They say children see the heart, she explained. My heart is dark, he said seriously, looking into her eyes. Let's leave it up to them to decide, okay? Nina assured him. The next day, Logan, of course, went to the office early as always. It was a normal day in his life, which meant a busy workday. The company was already empty. It was way past working hours, and only a few people still lingered. This was normal for Logan, but today he felt unsettled. Nina had asked him to come back a little earlier. He usually left first thing in the morning before the children woke up and returned late when they were already in bed. So she had suggested he arrive earlier, and now he was thinking about it. Nina and the kids were in the living area, the twins playing together while Nina helped Hazel with her homework. Nina was very surprised to hear a familiar sound, footsteps she had memorized by heart. She quickly looked up and saw the very person she had been waiting for. He really did come early. Well, not exactly early, but compared to his usual time, this was definitely early. Logan was very surprised to see Nina rushing toward him with a broad smile that caught him off guard. He knew for sure he wasn't that pleasant. People usually ran in the opposite direction when they saw him. This was new. Nina threw herself into his arms, hugging him tightly to welcome him. The embrace left him confused, but honestly, it felt nice. He quickly came back to reality, though. Nina, on the other hand, was basking in his arms, his addictive scent filling her nostrils. She was a hopeless romantic. What are you doing? Logan whispered. Are they watching? Nina asked. Understanding what she was up to, Logan looked toward the children, who all had innocent, curious looks on their faces, quietly staring at their beloved aunt hugging the strange man. Logan nodded, confirming to Nina that they were watching. She broke the hug and smoothly invited him to join them for dinner, for once. Logan agreed and went upstairs to freshen up. Their dinner went basically the same way as the lunch at the apartment weeks ago. The usually chatty Hazel was quiet, and the boys weren't acting like the 2-year-olds they were. They were eating politely, quietly, and carefully. Nina didn't like it at all. The first time they were like this, during the lunch at the apartment, she had felt guilty, thinking they were upset because she brought a stranger to dine with them. But now, after finding out the stranger was their own father, she realized how wrong this was. This just wasn't right. Nina looked toward Logan, who also seemed conscious of the tension in the room. He'd known this for years, but he never thought he'd care this much. Feed me, she suddenly said with a wide smile, staring at his food. Logan complied, taking a spoonful of his meal, which she gladly accepted. And to Logan's shock, Nina fed him too. Though skeptical, Logan accepted the food. Nina cheered happily as Logan chewed. She cheered the same way she always did when the kids ate, and they looked at her like they had a million questions in their minds. Their faces seemed to say, why is our own auntie feeding a grown man, and not us? The next day, early in the morning as Logan was heading out, Nina rushed toward him and stopped him. Sir, here, she said, handing him a piece of paper. What is that? Logan asked. A list of things you can buy for me, she said with a smile. Then, realizing how silly she sounded, she corrected herself. I mean a list of gifts for Hazel, Dylan, Tyler, and me. Logan took the list and read through it briefly. Then he stared at Nina, who just smiled widely like this whole thing was completely normal. Without saying a word, Logan walked out with the list in his hand. Later that day at work, he decided to go buy the things himself instead of sending someone else. It was rather comical, and it definitely took a while. This time, when he walked in, he was kind of expectant. He wanted to be welcomed, and he surely was. Welcome back, sir, Nina screeched as she ran toward him, wrapping him in a hug and letting herself sink into his embrace. She was shameless, and she didn't care. This time, Logan wrapped his arms around her firmly as well. Carry me, she instructed. Logan whispered back in disbelief. Come on, carry me. I'm not that heavy, she insisted, clinging onto him. And he did. He carried her in his arms. Nina looked over at the kids, who were now watching with great interest. Just a few seconds later, the boys burst into loud wails. They looked so heartbroken. Nina laughed as she got out of Logan's arms, went to scoop them up, and brought them to their father. She pacified them a little, persuaded them, and handed them to him, to which they gladly agreed. Logan was deeply moved by this. He held them close, and Nina suggested he go and give them the gifts she had asked him to buy. He confirmed he had brought them. Nina went back to Hazel, who had been quietly observing. Hazel was a little older and more hesitant. The boys were young. Running into a stranger's arms was normal for them. And Logan, although not close to them, was no stranger. In their young minds, they probably knew he was their daddy. But Hazel's case was different. She knew him all too well. That was her father, the one she always wished would treat her like her friends' dads did. She had always longed for time with him. Nina knew that every little girl wants to be a daddy's girl. That kind of relationship is healing, and that's how it should be. She asked Hazel a few questions about her father and realized how much the girl longed for him. They had dinner together again. It wasn't a chatty evening, but the tension had reduced a little. The boys were stubborn this time, refusing to eat their food. Nina tried persuading them, but it didn't work. So, she came up with an idea she was glad to play along with. She hoisted herself onto Logan's thighs and gestured for him to feed her. Logan played along. Honestly, he was enjoying whatever was going on. He didn't show it, and he didn't know why he didn't mind, but he was completely fine with it. He started feeding her, and Nina moaned loudly at the first bite. Before she could take a second bite, the twins started shouting in unison. Their jealousy wasn't because they wanted Logan to hold them, they just didn't want their Ani being cozy with anyone else. They'd rather be with Logan just to keep him away from Nina. And that's what happened. Logan started feeding his sons, and everything calmed down. Nina and Hazel, who had already finished their meals, left together. Nina spent a lot of time convincing Hazel how much her daddy loved her, and she could tell the little girl loved hearing it. Later on, while helping Hazel get ready for bed, Logan walked in holding 2 gift bags. "This is for you," he said to Nina. She excitedly jumped toward him and happily grabbed the gift. She eagerly opened the package and couldn't believe her eyes. There really should have been no surprise. She had selfishly written down everything she ever dreamed of having but would never buy for herself. Still, it was shocking to receive it. It was a luxury designer purse. "Thank you so much, sir. I love it," she said, jumping about in excitement. "Hazel, look what he got me. Do you like it?" she asked, showing it to Hazel, who just nodded with a small smile. Nina decided this would be the perfect time for the father and daughter to bond. Before leaving, she told Logan to read Hazel a bedtime story. Logan looked at his daughter and remembered her fearful gaze just a few days ago. "No, I just brought her gift. I thought bringing one for you two would make it easier for her to accept it, and maybe she'd be more comfortable if you were here," he whispered. "You brought her a gift? Perfect. Give it to her. Trust me, she loves you," Nina insisted. She went to Hazel and told her she would be right back, and that she should stay with Daddy. Then Nina walked out, leaving the two alone. She rushed to her bedroom and was shocked to find it filled with so many things she hadn't even asked for. Her greedy heart was very pleased. Logan was still standing quietly in his daughter's bedroom. Being in the business world, he had dealt with all kinds of intimidating people and always knew how to handle them. But now, faced with his own little daughter, her big, round eyes staring at him with hesitation and fear, he didn't even know what to say. He felt a sharp pain in his chest. How had he let it go this far? How had he let his attitude and work affect his relationship with his own children like this? It took a strange woman treating them like her own, choosing them over a decent job, for him to finally wake up and want to step up. Trying to keep his voice as soft as possible, he said, "I bought you something as well." He held out the bag, and Hazel hesitated before slowly reaching for it. She held it in her lap, staring at it like she wasn't sure whether to open it. "You can open it," Logan encouraged. After a brief pause, Hazel carefully pulled apart the wrapping and peeked inside. Her small, innocent face lit up instantly. The bag was full of colorful art supplies, an art book, crayons, princess-colored picture books, paintbrushes, and more. A big smile stretched across her face.
Thank you, Daddy.
Logan's heart clenched at the sound of that word.
Daddy.
When was the last time she had called him that? He couldn't even remember. Swallowing the emotion rising in his throat, he smiled back. You're welcome, sweetheart. He sat down beside her on the bed. Would you like me to read you a bedtime story? Hazel's eyes brightened even more. She quickly picked her favorite book and handed it to him. Logan adjusted himself on the bed, letting Hazel snuggle close as he opened the book and began reading. His voice was deep but warm, and as he read, Hazel leaned into him, completely absorbed in the story. By the time he reached the last page, her small body was relaxed against his. Logan glanced down and realized she had fallen asleep in his arms. Looking at her peaceful face, he exhaled deeply and placed a gentle kiss on her forehead. Right there, in that quiet moment, he made a silent promise. He was going to be better. Not just for Hazel, but for all his children. Nina was waiting for him outside and quickly approached as soon as he walked out. So, how is it, sir? She asked eagerly. Would you like to share some coffee? He asked instead of answering directly. Nina, of course, agreed. Logan prepared 2 cups of coffee, and the two sat together. It was quiet for a while until he spoke up. She loved the gift. The boys loved theirs too. You really know them well, he said. Of course I do. It's actually quite easy to understand kids, she replied. Logan stared at her for a moment. Well, since we've agreed that you're not good with kids because of motherly experience, since you don't have kids of your own, that was one fat lie. So tell me, how come you're so good with them? Nina chuckled, remembering the lies she had told during the job interview. Kids are adorable. You don't need a special skill to be good with them. All you need is love and patience. Depending on how you treat them, you'll get a fitting response, she explained. Logan didn't say anything to that. So, do you really think their father is ugly and looks like a pig? He asked seriously. Nina burst into a fit of laughter, trying to hide her embarrassment. After catching her breath, she answered, No, sir. I do not think you look like a pig, not even close, she said, and the two stared into each other's eyes for a moment. You don't have to be so formal with me. Don't call me sir, he said, maintaining eye contact. You're my boss. What else should I call you? She asked. Logan smoothly took a sip of his coffee before answering. Well, you said the kids will probably ease up to me if they see you and I getting close. It seems to be working. So I was thinking if you call me Daddy, maybe they'll do the same. Nina's mouth hung open in shock. She had to admit that was slick. And though a part of her wanted to play along, that would be crazy. Is Logan fine by you? She asked, quickly changing the subject, afraid of where her thoughts were headed. I guess so, he shrugged, and they both burst out laughing at how awkward that had been. That night, Logan made a vow to himself. He would be a great dad, and his children would be his priority. As weeks passed, Logan kept his promise. He worked less and spent more time with his children and with Nina. The bond between them grew stronger, and for the first time in a long while, his house felt like a real home. Even the people at the company noticed the change in him. No one understood it, but they were glad. Their boss had mellowed and smiled randomly, just like a normal human being should. Whenever he came back from work, it wasn't to a cold, soulless house. Right at the driveway, his children would be waiting for him. And as soon as he stepped out of the car, they would all run into his arms on their tiny legs. Their giggles and shouts of "Daddy's home" and "Welcome, Daddy" filled the air. And Nina, standing right behind them, just made it all feel perfect. He always looked forward to coming home because it felt exactly like it sounded. It felt like home. They did so many things together as a family. They participated in many activities, and it was therapeutic for all of them. Logan got closer to his children. The children received fatherly love, and Nina got to experience Logan's affection. He always showered her with gifts, even though she never asked for more again. They spent so much time together. She knew it wasn't real. She knew she wasn't part of the family, and it hurt. But the heart wants what it wants, so she kept dreaming. She made sure his moments with the children were fruitful. He had father-son moments and father-daughter moments. She learned to be a silent observer because, at the end of the day, this wasn't about her. She feared the day it would all end, and the most troubling part was, she knew that day would come. Earlier that morning, Logan informed Nina that they would all be going out. So Nina was actively getting the kids ready. They were so excited, maybe even more than Nina herself. Logan had planned something simple, not extravagant. He had missed the picnic Nina had invited him to, so he planned one of his own, but not within the mansion. Logan drove them all to the city park. It was a pleasant environment, not secluded like some might prefer. There were many other families and kids around, which is exactly why he chose this place. The kids would love it here, and it was child-friendly. As they settled in, it wasn't long before the kids found some new friends. They ran about and played while the parents, seated at a distance, kept their eyes on each child. Logan and Nina sat together in silence for a while, watching the children. Nina felt so awkward. She was happy to be there, but she didn't understand what she was there as. Looking around, all she saw were happy families, father, mother, and children. But what was she? "Are you okay?" Logan asked, startling her. "I'm fine, just watching them. They look so happy," she said, gesturing toward the kids. But Logan didn't look at them. He kept his eyes on her. "Are you happy?" he asked seriously, catching her off guard. "Of course I am," she laughed nervously. "Are you happy, sir?" "Logan." "You call me Logan," he corrected, refusing to answer the question. Of course he was happy. He had never been happier. His children loved him, and then there was Nina, the crazy lady who hadn't left his mind at all. Nina felt Logan's eyes boring into her, and she grew fidgety. It was hard to maintain her composure under his gaze, so she excused herself, saying she'd go watch the kids a little closer. Logan watched as she nervously rushed off. He knew he'd have to tell her the truth about his feelings eventually. He just hadn't decided when. Nina was standing idly when she saw two women walking toward her. They looked happy and were smiling at her. Nina didn't know why, but she was the only one standing there, so she knew they were coming to her. They introduced themselves, and she did the same. She found out they were mothers in the park accompanying their children, something she had already guessed. "I must say, it's beautiful to see a young couple starting a family. Your husband seems to love you so much," one of the women said, having seen Nina with Logan earlier. And now they could see how his eyes never left her. Nina realized they had completely misunderstood the situation, so she clarified, even though she really didn't want to. "Sorry, he's not my husband," she laughed nervously. The women looked at each other awkwardly, not knowing what to say. They wanted to pry, to ask if they were dating, engaged, or something else, but they stopped when they saw Logan approaching. He looked intimidating. He gave off that kind of vibe. The ladies pointed out their children among the kids playing. "So, which one is yours?" one asked. Nina didn't know what to say. She looked toward the three adorable children she could only wish were hers. But reality hit hard. She smiled. "I came here with those three, the two adorable twin boys over there and that sweet girl right there," she said, pointing and telling them the children's names. "Wow, they're beautiful. Are they all yours?" one asked. Before Nina could figure out how to answer, a voice interrupted them. "Hello, ladies," Logan said as he came to stand right next to Nina. "Hello, sir. You have a beautiful family," one of the women complimented. Nina knew why they were saying that, but she didn't understand why they were so determined to find out her relationship with Logan. "Thank you, madam. My family is indeed a beautiful one. I cherish them a lot," he said, staring at Nina, who nervously looked away. "You are the most adorable couple in the park, and so young too. We just had to come meet you too," one of the women added. "Yes. Nina here just told us you two are married. I'm sorry to meddle, but you really should get married. Beautiful couple, I promise," the other said with a cheerful smile. Logan smiled. "I love you two ladies," he said, gently holding Nina's hand. "I'll make sure to invite you to our wedding. That's a promise." Then he pulled Nina along as they walked away. Nina was in a complete daze. She just followed him like a lost puppy. They went to get the kids and finally sat down together for their picnic. It was fun, and all the while, Logan kept flirting with her. She was so unsettled in a good way, a way that scared her. She could feel other people staring at them, admiring what looked like a happy young family. It was a very enjoyable evening. They took a walk around the park, chatting normally. They didn't act like a couple, but somehow they just looked like one, effortlessly. Everyone, especially the kids, was eventually exhausted, and since it was getting late, they headed home, happy and satisfied with how the day had turned out. That night, Nina went to put Hazel to bed while Logan helped the boys settle down. She couldn't stop thinking about what Logan had said to the women earlier. She knew he didn't mean it, but she so badly wished he did. She knew she had to stop dreaming because it would only end in heartbreak. Nina stepped out of Hazel's bedroom, gently closing the door behind her. The little girl had fallen asleep peacefully, still clutching a crayon in her small hand. Just as Nina turned around, Logan stepped out of the twins' room. His tall frame filled the dim hallway. The boys had clung to him until they dozed off, just like always. Their eyes met and Logan smiled. "The kids are asleep. You must be tired. Should I carry and tuck you into bed as well?" he joked. Nina wanted to scream, yes, at the top of her lungs. She wanted to feel his strong arms around her, to rest her head against his broad chest, even just for a moment. But instead, she just smiled. They didn't say anything more, but as if by habit, they both walked to the second living area, their usual spot for late-night chats over coffee. Logan made the coffee, as always, while Nina curled up on the couch. When he handed her a cup, she took it with a quiet, "Thank you," and blew on the hot surface. They talked about random things, mostly about the kids. It was easy, comforting. Time passed quickly, as it always did when they were together. In the middle of the conversation, Logan leaned back, his expression changing slightly. "I have a business deal to close. I'll be away for 2 weeks," he said. Nina's smile faded. 2 weeks. It felt more like 2 years. It sounded like a breakup, and she didn't even know why she felt that way. She wanted to cry. Logan felt it too. Before, he would have been excited to go, focused on his work. Now, he felt like he was leaving behind something important. Someone important. He had already postponed the trip as long as he could, but it was time. He never thought doing what he loved would suddenly feel so hard. "When do you leave?" Nina asked softly. "In 2 days," Logan replied. She nodded, forcing a small, painful smile. She wasn't his girlfriend. She couldn't ask him to stay. She couldn't even tell him she would miss him. She was just a babysitter. Babysitters come and go, and soon, so would she. "The kids will miss you," she said, swallowing the lump in her throat. Logan looked at her for a long moment. "What about you? Won't you miss me?" His eyes searched hers, waiting. Nina held his gaze, trying not to show her emotions. But after a few seconds, she looked away and stared at her coffee. Logan saw the hesitation. He saw how hard she was trying to hide her feelings. So, to lighten the moment, he smiled and leaned forward. "Well, I'm open to receiving a list of things you'd like me to bring back. Something for the kids. And especially for you." Nina laughed softly, grateful for the change of subject. "Surprise us," she said. They talked a little more, but Nina was exhausted. Her body felt heavy, and before she knew it, she had drifted off to sleep, her head resting on the couch cushion. Logan watched her for a long moment, taking in the soft rise and fall of her breathing. She looked peaceful. She looked beautiful. With a quiet chuckle, he remembered his joke from earlier. "Should I carry and tuck you into bed as well?" Well, it wasn't a joke anymore. Carefully, he slid his arms under her and lifted her effortlessly. She barely stirred as he carried her down the hallway to her room. Gently, he laid her on the bed and pulled the blanket over her. For a second, he just stood there, watching her sleep again. Then, with a soft sigh, he turned and walked away, closing the door behind him. The day Logan left came sooner than expected, and Nina felt like her whole heart had been ripped out of her chest. She realized this wasn't healthy at all. She was battling all kinds of emotions over a man who only saw her as a babysitter. It was getting out of hand. She couldn't sleep, and she felt like she was losing her mind. Just 3 days after Logan left, they got a visitor. It was Fiona. She confidently walked into the house. She knew the place well. After all, her sister had once been the woman of the house, and Fiona had even lived there before. She came like a concerned aunt, claiming to miss the kids, holding what looked like gifts for them. Logan had forbidden her from coming, but once she found out he'd left the country, she saw her chance. The kids were her only way of getting close to Logan again. Fiona walked into the kitchen, looking for Helen or the maid after failing to find the children. She froze when her eyes landed on Nina, who was just as shocked to see her. "What are you doing here?" Fiona snarled, her glare sharp enough to pierce Nina's soul. "Hello, Fiona. It's been a while," Nina greeted, unsure what else to say. "Shut up. We aren't friends. What are you doing in this house? So this is where you ran off to. I bet you came here to play mama, trying to use Logan's kids to seduce him, right?" she shouted. Nina stayed quiet because deep down she felt a little guilty. "Well, I have news for you, Nina. Those children have a mother. This house has a woman. You're not welcome here," Fiona shouted. Before Nina could respond, Helen walked in and quickly intervened. "Fiona, please stop making a scene. Nina is here because Logan personally invited her. The kids love her, and so does everyone else. So please, don't jump to conclusions." "I see," Fiona scoffed. "You've managed to win over everyone, haven't you, Nina?" She sneered. "Well, we'll see about that. You will leave this house, and I'll make sure of it." "That's a promise," she warned before storming out. Helen comforted Nina, saying Fiona couldn't do anything. She even offered to call Logan, but Nina said it wasn't a big deal. She was wrong. The very next day, Nina was in her room when Fiona barged in again, but this time, she wasn't alone. There was a woman with her, a beautiful, elegant lady. Fiona looked smug, more confident than before. The woman stared at Nina with a calm but serious expression. "You must be Nina," she said, walking confidently around the room. "Fiona, pack her bags," she ordered, and Fiona gladly began doing just that. "Don't look surprised, Nina. Your work here is done. You were brought here to care for the children, right?" Fiona asked. Nina just stared. "Well, your services are no longer needed. The kids now have their mother and their aunt. They're in good hands. With family. So you can leave," she said coldly. Nina wasn't too shocked. The moment she saw the woman, she noticed the resemblance to Hazel. Clearly, Fiona had called her sister to come kick her out. It was hard, but Nina saw it as the reality check she needed. She had been too caught up in dreams, fantasizing about a life that was never meant for her. She wasn't special. She wasn't family. Just a dreamer. Helen tried to stop her, but Nina was determined. She grabbed her things and left. She didn't even have the courage to say goodbye to the kids. It would have broken her. Thankfully, she had worked there long enough to be paid, so she wasn't stranded like the last time Fiona kicked her out. Since she had no steady income yet, she decided to use the little she had wisely until she found another job. The first day, she was a complete mess. She booked a cheap motel room and cried for hours. But the next day, even though she felt empty inside, she forced herself to go out and look for an apartment. She needed to start over. When Logan found out Nina had left, he was furious. He returned earlier than planned, and both Catherine and Fiona were kicked out of the house immediately. This wasn't what he expected to come home to. The children weren't even excited to see him. They were simply relieved. The first thing Hazel asked was, "Will you bring my auntie back?" Logan felt helpless. He called Nina so many times, but none of the calls went through. Hazel kept asking about her, and he honestly didn't know what to say. The boys could barely talk, but they missed her too, and so did he, in a way he never expected. He had really thought he'd come back to find her right there, waiting for him with his children. He had pictured it all so clearly in his mind. Logan was miserable, but he had to stay strong for his kids. There was no way he would go back to being an absent father. He knew Nina wouldn't want that. Now more than ever, they needed him. The children had just lost someone so close to them. He couldn't pull away too. At least they could all find comfort in each other. 3 weeks went by, and all efforts to find Nina were in vain. But eventually, there was a breakthrough. His investigators found her address. Apparently, she had been dropping her CV at different companies. The moment Logan received the address, he left his office and drove straight to the impoverished part of the city. He found the place, but it looked deserted. Logan asked around, and the locals, seeing a handsome, well-dressed man who clearly came from money, were more than willing to help him. He found out that a new girl matching his description had indeed moved into the area. Their description fit Nina perfectly. Logan waited in his car for hours, but there were no signs of her. That evening, Nina was walking home, exhausted after a long day of job hunting. She was still a distance away when she spotted a luxury car parked along the dirty street, standing out sharply among the old houses. She recognized it instantly. It was Logan's car. Nina ducked behind a house immediately. She wondered how he had found her. Nina shut her eyes tightly, trying to bury her feelings. She had to stay hidden, even though every part of her wanted to run into his arms and tell him how much she'd missed him. But she couldn't. They had different wants. He was here looking for the babysitter of his children. But she wanted more. She wanted to be their mother. She wanted to be part of their family, to have his love. She wanted to be his woman. She wanted the wedding he once teased. She wanted it all, but she knew she couldn't fight for it. She didn't want to be in that painful space where they were close, yet out of reach. It was better to stay away completely. Nina peeked again and saw Logan now standing outside the car. Even from a distance, he looked so good. It felt so good to see him again. He was talking to some of the neighborhood kids, and Nina realized they were pointing toward the area where she was hiding. Then Logan looked in her direction, and for a moment, she thought he had seen her. Panicked, she stumbled backward and ran through the alleyways behind the houses. She returned home late that night. Her neighbors made sure to inform her that a handsome, rich man had come looking for her. She just played it off. She was too tired. She slumped straight into bed. The very next morning, Logan returned. Nina was woken by loud knocks on her fragile door, followed by his voice calling out to her. "Nina, I know you're inside. Please, I just need to talk to you. The kids miss you. We all do. Please, just come back." Nina sat on the cold floor, silent, tears rolling down her cheeks. She missed them too. This was just as hard for her. But they were kids. They'd forget her in a few weeks. She, on the other hand, would never forget them. They'd always be in her heart. Logan could tell she was avoiding him, and nothing he said would bring her out. He'd have to try a different approach. He blamed himself for all of this. He had been selfish. He knew she had feelings for him. He'd seen her watching him before, and her reactions were easy to read. He wasn't a stranger to female attention, and he'd known exactly how she felt. But instead of manning up and telling her that her feelings were mutual, he sat back and enjoyed the attention. He let his ego take over. Now, he feared he had ruined everything. What if she really wanted nothing to do with him anymore? How would he ever move on? Later that day, Nina was outside washing her clothes. She had a job interview the next day, and her favorite decent outfit was dirty. She kept glancing over her shoulder, just in case Logan returned, but she doubted he would. He must have realized she didn't want to see him. But Nina was wrong. Two people she least expected showed up to find her. It was Fiona and her sister again. Fiona burst out laughing when she saw Nina. "Now this is a place very befitting of you," she mocked. Nina ignored them and continued washing her clothes. "Hello, Nina, we meet again." "I'd like to talk to you," said the other lady. "What do you want this time?" "I left your house, your husband, and your kids. I'm minding my business." "Madam, please leave me alone," Nina said in a serious tone. "You can call me Catherine. And he's not my husband, not anymore." "We're fully divorced," she replied. "But that's beside the point." "Yes, it is beside the point, sister. Why are you explaining yourself to her? I told you what she did to me. We're here to set her straight, remember?" Fiona barked. "Well, Fiona, it seems you and I are here for two different reasons. I'm here to apologize and explain myself to her," Catherine said, leaving Fiona completely shocked and speechless. "Nina, Logan gave me an ultimatum. If I don't get you back into that house, apparently things will be very unfortunate for me." "I've never seen him that angry," she said with an ironic laugh. "Honestly, I'm scared for my life," she added. "Excuse me, Catherine. What are you talking about?" Are you crazy? Fiona shouted, but Catherine ignored her. Nina, listen. I know we started off on the wrong foot, but that was because I was misinformed about you. Someone filled my head with lies, she said, glancing at Fiona, who was fuming beside her. I had a chance to talk to Helen and some of the workers. They all spoke highly of you. Hazel couldn't stop asking about you, and her father clearly misses you. I can tell he feels something special for you. This got Nina's attention, and Fiona's too. Catherine, will you shut up? What are you even talking about? Just keep quiet. Logan doesn't care about her. Fiona shrieked. Fiona, let me talk, Catherine warned. Talk about what? I thought we agreed you would help me get Logan for myself. Fiona cried out. You had your chance and you blew it. You turned my children into a transaction, a bargain. I can't control Logan's heart. If I could, do you think I would have left him and the kids? I loved him. I agreed to your stupid plan because you promised to take care of my children. But we both know you can't. So forget it, Catherine shouted. You got someone else to take care of them, so don't blame me for how things turned out. You caused this, she said firmly. I hate you. I hate you. Fiona cried out loudly and ran off. I love you, Fiona, but I love my children more in my own weird way, Catherine called after her. Nina watched the whole exchange in surprise. Why were the two sisters falling out all of a sudden? Catherine turned to Nina, her emotions overpowering her. Believe it or not, I love my children. But it became so hard that I chose myself. I chose to be selfish. I chose my own joy. Listen, Nina. I know you love my children, and I know you've fallen in love with Logan too, which I completely understand. Who wouldn't? He's every woman's dream. And it seems like he loves you too, Catherine confessed. Nina wished so badly, that was true. He doesn't love me. He just wants me to go be with the children, she said sadly. Oh, darling, that's not true. I know Logan, okay? He would never cut a business trip short for just a babysitter. He's changed so much because of you. He's now close to his children. Do you think you were the first person to ask him to be a better father? I tried for years. Helen tried. His parents and siblings too. But he never changed until you came along. And in just a few weeks, he became a completely different man. Trust me, as someone who longed for his love and attention for so long, I know the difference. That Logan I saw is a different man. And he loves you. Goodness knows, if he'd shown even a little affection toward me like he does with you, I would never have left, she confessed. But you two were married. He must have loved you, Nina said softly. Oh, please. I thought marriage would make him love me. I trapped him with a child, with Hazel. I thought things would change. But even after marrying me, I was still invisible to him. So, I tried for a second child, I got the twins. But nothing changed. It was all too much for me. I couldn't do it anymore. So I ran off, she explained. I'm a horrible mother. But I want the best for my children. Please give your love a chance. I've never seen Logan express so much emotion, ever. He loves you. And I'm actually kind of grateful to Fiona for finding you and bringing you into my children's lives. They deserve a real mother, someone who truly loves them, not one who had them just to win their father's love. And Logan deserves real love too. I kept him in a loveless marriage for years, hurting both of us, and the kids. Please think about it. He's a good man. Hours passed, and Nina couldn't stop thinking about what Catherine had said. She badly wished it was all true, but she couldn't take someone else's word for Logan's feelings. He had never told her anything. Today she had an interview, so she got ready early and took a taxi to the city. It was a smaller company, but a good one. A job there would be very beneficial. This time around, she was fully prepared. She did intensive research about the company and arrived early. She was one of the first candidates to get there, but many others arrived before her. She sat quietly, trying to contain her pounding heart. She really needed this job. She was so nervous. She recalled her last job interview. It was for a bigger company, more intense. She was absolutely unprepared, yet she wasn't scared at all. In fact, she was so calm it didn't even feel like an interview. A small smile tugged at her lips as she recalled the events of that day. Maybe the kids had made her feel at ease.
She was always so happy being with them.
Nina realized she was getting unnecessarily emotional, so she tightly closed her eyes to clear her mind, breathing and exhaling deeply for a few seconds. When she opened her eyes, she was startled to see a lady standing right in front of her with a broad smile on her face. It seemed like the lady had been waiting for her to open her eyes, but Nina didn't understand why. She did recognize the lady. She was an employee at the company who had briefed them earlier. "Hello, Ms. Opal, are you ready for your interview?" she asked, keeping that unyielding smile on her face. Nina looked around in confusion. From the look on the other candidates' faces, she could tell that this was unusual. Why was she being invited this way? That's not how it works. "Madam, I am ready. I'm just waiting for my turn," Nina responded kindly. "That's perfect, because it is your turn now. The panel is ready for you," the lady said, leaving Nina confused. She definitely knew it wasn't her turn yet. She felt a sense of déjà vu. It had happened before. There couldn't be a correlation, right? It was impossible. Despite noticing how unfair this was to the people who had shown up earlier than her, Nina couldn't refuse to go in for the interview. So, she followed the lady as she led her in. Upon stepping inside, Nina understood exactly what was going on. Her eyes landed on him, and they maintained eye contact for a while, as if they were the only two people in the room. Nina's heart pounded so fast she thought it would leap out of her chest. How was Logan, of all people, here? She had been meticulous, doing intense research, and she could swear Logan's company had no connections to this one. How could he be here? "Ms. Opal, would you like to have a seat, please?" Logan said, jolting Nina out of her daze. Nina slowly walked toward the seat in front of the panel. The seat was situated directly in front of Logan. The other panel members were completely silent and idle. They seemed just as confused as Nina. Logan, on the other hand, didn't take his eyes off her, not even for a second. The room was so quiet, it felt like what every candidate thinks an interview room is, like an interrogation room. At least she wasn't the only one tense. The other interviewers sitting beside Logan seemed as though they were being interviewed as well. It had started as a basic workday for them. They were supposed to conduct interviews like they had many times before. But this time, the CEO of a large conglomerate, one they could never compare to, had decided to join them for just one particular candidate. Their own CEO of this small company had personally brought Logan in and asked them to leave the panel in his control. And they did just that. They were too scared. Who didn't know Logan Hadrian in the business world? His presence was so imposing they were all freaked out. Nina wasn't really scared. It was a mix of so many emotions that she couldn't fathom. She kept her head low, and minutes felt like hours. She felt guilty for reasons she didn't understand. "So, Mrs. Opal, tell us, why should we give you this job?" Logan asked after what felt like hours. His thick voice broke the silence. Nina swallowed, feeling nervous all of a sudden. She couldn't believe she had shamelessly been all over this man just a few weeks ago. They had been very conversational and rather good friends. She didn't understand why she was suddenly so embarrassed. Her confidence was completely gone. She cleared her throat, trying to confirm whether her voice still existed, before answering, trying to sound as normal as possible. "Well, I'm completely fit for the job. It aligns perfectly with my field of training and specialty. I have the right experience and knowledge for the position," she said, avoiding his gaze the whole time. Logan nods his head.
"Nice.
"Talking about experience, can you tell me about your previous job? What were you doing?" he asks. Nina didn't even understand why she was here. She didn't understand why she was still seated in front of him. She knew this wasn't a real interview. She didn't have to sit here and answer him, yet she stayed and answered. "I was a babysitter." "Why did you leave the job?" Logan asks. "I was fired," she replies. "By who?" Logan asks, his voice sounding a little more tense now. Nina stares at him, meeting his eyes. "The mother of the children." "Did she hire you?" he questions. "She's their mother," she says defensively. "Who hired you?" he asks seriously. Nina blinks rapidly, feeling a heaviness on her chest. Her emotions are all over the place. Their father. I was hired by their father, she says, maintaining eye contact. Then why did you leave? Do you think he'd ever want you to leave? He inquires. I wouldn't know. I was just a babysitter. I was bound to leave one day. What makes you think that's how he viewed you? He asks. Reality.
Facts. The truth.
That's what I was, a nanny, she says, tears forming in her eyes. It is silent for a while after that. I'm sorry you felt that way, he says slowly. You don't have to be sorry. I loved the kids. It was never a problem to me. I miss them, but life goes on, she says, swallowing the lump in her throat. I'm not talking about the kids. This is not about them, he asserts in a serious tone. Nina stares at him for a while. Well, I was only there because of the children. I don't understand what else this could be about, she says, looking away. Do you know how he felt when he came back and didn't find you there? Your scent stayed. Your voice could be heard. Your face lingered. Yet you just weren't there. You still aren't. How do you think he feels? He asks in a very subtle tone that carried so much emotion. Nina stares at him, caught off guard by his words. How does he feel? She asks slowly. He wonders how he had even been living before you came into his life. Nothing makes sense anymore. Why does he feel that way? She asks emotionally. Because he fell for it all. He fell for your wit, your kind heart, your playfulness, everything about you. You gave him life, joy, and family. He's deeply in love with you, and it's so hard to live without you, he answers seriously. Tears finally roll down Nina's cheeks. Then why didn't he tell me? Does he have any idea how hard it was for me to be there, feel his presence, his scent, sometimes even hold him and spend time with him, yet know in the back of my mind that I was so dispensable? She croaks out. Logan gets up and walks toward her. He helps her up and gently wipes her tears.
I'm so sorry, Nina.
Please give me a chance. Give us a chance, he says, kissing her forehead and hugging her tightly. Nina couldn't stop her tears. They kept flowing. This had only been a dream for so long. She couldn't believe this. She didn't have to come up with stories just to be in his arms now. After a while, she heard the sound of clapping. She had almost forgotten that they weren't the only ones in the room, though it felt like it. But there were other claps a little more distant, like there was a whole crowd cheering. She slowly peeks behind Logan, still in his arms, and sees so many people on the other side of the glass, so many employees, and some of the candidates waiting for the interview. She had no idea when the switchable film glass had become transparent or how long it had been that way, but it seemed like so many people were watching them, which made her a little shy. Everyone there seemed to know Logan, and they were just shocked he went to this extent to talk to the woman he loves. It was heartwarming and adorable. Nina and Logan spent the rest of the day together, just catching up. When they got back home in the evening, Hazel burst into emotional tears of joy after seeing her. The boys followed as well, wrapping their tiny hands around her. She had missed this, and she was more than glad to be back. Everything went back to normal, but better. It was a full-blown instant family. The love between Nina and Logan flourished to deeper lengths every single day.